Inside the Expo Studio and out, our foundation is our brokers and our relationships. And a key part of the story is Zuriel Naicker, who joins us today. A real long-standing relationship with the I2 family, a long-standing journey within insurance as well, which we're going to talk about today. How are you, Zuriel?
Good to see you. Good to be here.
You're on the road, you manic, you up and down. As the risk management director at Marsh McLennan, does it mean that your life is just sort of hectic and never really in one place, or how's that been going for you?
No, I think, look, the pace of the working world is probably the same for all of us, right? I think it has changed, and it's probably been a gear up or gear down. I'm not really good at motor analogies, so I should be careful about kind of what I say. But it is, and I think also the pace of broking and being at the coalface of kind of interactions with a client, delivering solutions for a client demands that pace. Yeah.
Being the managing director of risk management for Africa sounds a bit hectic. It sounds big. It sounds intimidating. How have you found the role thus far, and what really do you do within your role in the type of business that you do at Marsh?
Yeah, sure. So, Marsh's business is segmented into three key areas. So one is consumer and commercial insurance, which is basically your and my insurance from cars to our homes and small mom and pop shops. Mm-hmm. And then we've got a segment called corporate, which is mid-tier. And that's basically kind of the large independent businesses that are the backbone of our economy in many instances. And then we've got a division called risk management, which I lead. And risk management is in essence the major listed businesses across South Africa and the continent at large. It encompasses a broad cross-section of industries like banking and financial institutions, retail and consumer, so the major retailers, property companies, hospitality firms, automotive, consumer media and technology, as well as kind of light manufacturing. So it's a broad cross-section of businesses which we insure, and probably do about half of the JSE's top 100 listed businesses in that space.
This is big business and big responsibilities, but it's not without its challenges, but it started somewhere. Tell us a bit about that foray into insurance and how you designated it as a career path. Was it intentional? Where did this all start?
Yeah, so I grew up in a family that had some exposure to insurance and financial services, I suppose. So my dad was in life insurance for many years. He worked with the Old Mutual in kind of the life insurance financial advice space in Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, which is where I'm from. And after I finished school down there, I came up to Wits to study. I felt like Wits was kind of the heart of commerce in South Africa, or Joburg rather was the heart of commerce, and Wits was there. And so it felt like a natural kind of move. And so I read for a Bachelor of Commerce in Insurance and Risk Management and Marketing. And in the third year of my degree, the final year, they had a review of the whole of the School of Economic and Business Science. That was the school within which the Faculty of Commerce sat. And a gent by the name of Pete Leyburn, who was the MD of Hollard Life at the time, sat next to me. And we were basically kind of interrogating the school, its focus, innovation, where it was going. And at the end of the day or during lunch, I can't remember, he said to me, Zuriel, have you ever thought about actually working in insurance? So I said, well, yeah, it's
I've gone down this road.
I'm partially invested. And he said, you should come and have a cup of coffee. And so I had a cup of coffee with Paolo Cavalieri, who was the CEO of Hollard at the time. And the rest is history. I started what has been a really rewarding journey in insurance, primarily in underwriting. But for the last 5 years, I've been in broking or the risk advisory space, which has been hugely rewarding, I think, in getting to grips with what's actually happening with our clients and with big business in the country. And we've navigated a lot, I think, in the last 3 to 5 years in the insurance industry. Whether it's the riots of 2021, the floods of 2022, COVID and the resulting BI losses that have come from that. And really just it's been a really rewarding journey to help and guide clients through that period.
It gives a lot of purpose to what you do, because at face value, it may, we always say the insurance is a grudge purchase, or this it's not always seen in the greatest of lights, but you change people's lives in the way that you offer them solutions and protection and all of that. So do you see a bit of a difference in the role that you play in broking compared to underwriting
I do.
in the past?
Firstly, I think we need to kind of properly poo-poo that focus
Yeah.
on the fact that
Trash.
insurance is a grudge process. Trash is a better word. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I see that, but I think we as professionals within the risk industry and insurance in particular need to get better at articulating the value in what we do and in what the industry delivers. Insurance is a critical economic enabler.
Fundamental.
You would run your life fundamentally differently if you didn't have insurance. And I think the same goes for big business in this country and indeed across the world. So insurance really helps, in my mind, kind of spur on economic growth, development, progress, innovation, in a way that I think is often not recognized. And so it's, I think to your question on kind of the transition from underwriting into broking, I think underwriting was a really cool kind of start to my career, I think, because it gave me insight into the nuts and bolts and also the concept of risk, carrying risk, solvency, what it means, what good risks are, what bad risks are, the importance of risk management, and an individual client or person's role in making sure that although you've got insurance, you're doing the best to keep your business in tip-top shape or condition. I think what broking has done is really taken me to the forefront of that in many instances. And what I love about it is, one day you can be sitting with the CFO of a major retailer. The next day you can be with the CEO of a bank. The next day you could be, with an automotive company at one of their factories in the Eastern Cape. And the exposure to all of these businesses that really kind of keep our economy moving forward, provide so many jobs for families in the country. I think that's been quite an interesting experience, and often sitting alongside these individuals and tackling new and different problems that are facing us as an industry, and saying, well, what can we do here, and how can we think about that cleverly, and how do we bring our partners in, like an I2 and others, in order to come up with a solution so that can be done. And I think that's probably how I'd summarize it, is that solutionist mentality and the ability to find a solution, craft a solution, design a solution, find a solution and implement it is pretty cool.
Yeah, no day is the same. It feels like there's always a challenge coming in from every different area, but the challenges are very real in the world that we're living in today, which changes the insurance landscape to a large degree. I joined the insurance industry during the pandemic, and from what I was doing in my prior career field, you really saw at the coalface the value that the insurance industry brings, because how much of at that time needed to be held together by risk managers and insurance and making sure that the covers were in place. With you having seen through this risk management division over the past few years, what are the big challenges that you're seeing at the moment in our industry and just with the specific risk management landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I had to look at the risk management segment or companies as a whole, it's probably a microcosm of insurance and the industry, across the piece. I think that clients, both individuals and businesses, have come, off the back of a really hard cycle in insurance. We've had 7 years of uninterrupted increases in the cost of insurance, and that's been driven by losses in the space. So clients have really had to absorb a lot in respect of kind of hard costs, but also an understanding and appreciation of risk. And I would say that's the positive spin-off, right? I'd say the conversation around risk has been elevated to the highest levels of an organization. There is no CEO or CFO within South Africa and more broadly in the world who don't now have a clear understanding of their risk management program, of the implication of insurance on their balance sheet, and the importance of partnering with the right organizations, so that if the pawpaw does hit the fan, you know that you are able to address that issue with agility, and you're able to have kind of the right partner by your side to equip you to get back onto onto the treadmill, as it were. I think the second thing I'd probably flag is talent. I think that within our industry and more broadly, we are a people-based industry, and so we sell air until something happens, right? And so the importance of making sure that you've got the right people within your organization, the right technical skill, and invest in colleagues from a young age is critically important. And at Marsh, we probably deliver one of the largest if not the largest graduate recruitment program in broking in
Really?
South Africa.
Wow.
And that's key for us in investing in talent for today, but also for tomorrow, and in making sure that we've got a pipeline of talent through our organization, but also for the industry. Because as you and I were discussing kind of a little bit earlier, there are times when those individuals will move on to other organizations, and as we work hard on our value proposition to keep them within our business, but sometimes if they do go on, it's an investment in the broader industry.
It only benefits the industry to have the best of the best within that environment. If they've benefited from being part of your organization, it really only stands you in good stead to say that you've grown people in that way.
Agreed. Yeah.
You were somebody who was invested into from an early age by the likes of Power Law and a few people that you've mentioned before. How did you start with some of these relationships? Was it something that became natural to you to develop, or was it daunting at first? I just want to know what your thoughts are of this. It's a hyper focus on relationship within this industry because it's key to us having that good foundation and a good base, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
How do you go about forming relationships and keeping them intact?
Yeah, I'd say at the start of my career, it wasn't kind of super deliberate, to be honest. If I reflect back now, I realize the importance on investing in relationships and investing in people around you more broadly, and that's probably been kind of a golden thread through kind of through my career. But I've been lucky to come across some really cool people. In my however many years in career, 18 years within insurance, people who kind of took notice, gave me a chance, and I think I've also been encouraged by those people to put my hand up, to step forward. No was probably not a word that was in my vocabulary in the first 5 years of my career. I don't know. I've learned now that no is an important word.
There's peace in no as well.
Exactly. I like that. There's peace in no. There is peace in no. And so I got exposed to, or had the opportunity, and was put in to be exposed to people at a very senior level within the organizations that I worked in at an early stage in my career, and people who recognized that a 20-something could contribute. And could add a different flavor and a different perspective and different ideas. People who kind of gave me access to sit around tables and be part of conversations that I would argue ordinarily I wouldn't have been a part of. And so, I'm deeply grateful to those individuals for kind of paving the way, because I think it's like your brain, your career, life is kind of like a muscle, right? You've got to kind of flex it.
Yes.
And in doing so, you build and build and build and build, and you kind of get stronger and stronger in different elements of your career. And so I've been lucky, I think, to have people who have done that. I think that the importance of mentorship can never be understated. And it's something that I've tried to take and pay forward in my own life and in my own career. Sponsorship of people. Not everything you do or every career you touch has to be direct. Sometimes people don't need to know. But if you see a seed that is growing that needs a bit more fertilizer or could use some water, I think it's incumbent on us to do that and watch it grow, sometimes from a distance. And I think the importance of coaching, I suppose, is a third element and pillar to people around you, formally and informally, has also been a key part of my growth.
I love that analogy of you have to send the lift back down once you make it up, because if you're keeping it up there, it's not of use. Yeah. So if you keep sending it back down and bringing it back up, and the people along with you, ultimately you're contributing. It's not just a self-fulfilling manifesto that you have. It's about contributing to the whole.
Agreed. And I think, we spoke about talent a little bit earlier. We all have a role to play, in that. And I think what struck me with the mentors and people who have touched my career is, they gave me an opportunity. They backed me when things were going well, but they backed me when I messed up as well.
Yeah.
And
Crucial.
so that's like, so we, I mean, we're 20 something, 30 something, or whatever it is. As you step into a new environment, into a new place, as you're exposed to something new, you may get it 100% correct. Great. You may get it 50%, 80%, or whatever it is. But I think it was when when I didn't quite get it, or I didn't quite click, or I kind of watched them support me through that, and that's probably where I took big learnings for myself in my own career.
Failing's important because if you're winning all the time, how are you going to realize where you need to actually improve, self-reflection, all of that? You build yourself up a lot with some of your hobbies like running. How did that start? Have you always been into it? You laugh as if this is...
I'm laughing because it's like you're looking at me and going, "How did that start?" And no, I'm not really built.
Why?
I'm not a bolt runner.
That's not at all. Me being a non-runner, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, you can just walk.
It actually started with I was at Etana at the time. Etana was a company that was birthed out of the Hollard frame and was kind of later absorbed back in. And there was a guy who used to lead our people and brand called Carl Nalter. And I don't know what he was training for at the time. And he said,
exactly, what are they running for?
Exactly. Who are you running from? I mean, that's, and so it was probably 2012 or 2013, so not long ago, 10 years ago-ish, where I kind of started. And I mean, running was the last thing I did when I got into the gym. I would look for every other machine. I'd pick the cycle, probably that like sitting cycle, because it was a bit ristig, and you'd had a place to rest your hands and whatever it is.
Take a breath.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'd do the elliptical or whatever it is. And he was like, no, come run. So I was like, Carl, I can run like 500 meters. And we started like 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. And so, and built it up. And it's really, I enjoy running. I enjoy the space that it gives me. It's the one time of my life and in the day that I'm kind of on my own. So I'm not part of a running club or anything. I get out and go on my own, usually with my headphones, but I'm mindful that now I've got these headphones where you can hear the world around you as well, because I think that safety thing is important. I mean, running has been, for me, the lessons, I think, in terms of what the accomplishment, in terms of what where I've run, is less of a story, and I think that's what people often focus on. But the focus for me is like the discipline, the planning and preparation that's required, the consistency that's required, and then after all of that, it boils down to just showing up on the day. Like, you got like, it's there, and sometimes
I think that's been my stumbling block. Is really just getting there.
Waking up.
But how you've explained it actually makes a lot of sense, is that you started small. It seems overwhelming. I mean, what's the longest race that you've done at this point?
A marathon, so 42.2,
you started out with 500 meters or a kilometer, but the consistency and committing to it, and at some point I mean, what has running taught you about yourself? It's lent itself something to your character as well.
100%. I mean, I think those elements, I think in particular, and if I have to go from kind of the end to the beginning, firstly, showing up on the day is critical, right? Because sometimes you wake up in the morning, 9 times out of 10, it's cold, it's wet. I did the London Marathon last year, and being from Africa, I don't run in the rain. So like if it's raining, I go to sleep and wake up the next day and I'll run, I'll run again. Or I get on the treadmill because, so I ran in the first 15 Ks it was pouring with rain, but pouring. I was, it was a whole new experience, but you get up and you're there and you've got to do it and you've got to make it happen.
And you've got to see it through.
Correct. And you've committed to something, so you've got to execute on it. So I think that's the one thing that taught me about myself. And I think also that importance, as I've said, in terms of if you want anything badly enough, and if you want to make it happen, there is a degree of planning and preparation that needs to go in. And sometimes you're preparing for something that you don't even know.
Wow.
You know? So if you're moving towards X and you think that the preparation is MNO, okay, that preparation might serve you well for that end goal of X, but it might manifest in many other ways in your life when you least expect it. And so I think that's been an important lesson for me. And then also just discipline and consistency. You know, when you're training for something, it just feels so far away. It feels like 3 or 4 months away, and you're like, why am I getting up and doing hill repeats this morning? Like, this is, you know, what is that little 400 meters going to do? Maybe I should just...
What else could I be doing
exactly.
with this
What
time?
else could I do? But, you know, as it kind of, you compound a week of hill repeats with a tempo run, with a long run on a Sunday, and then the next week when you're doing your 5K, it just feels like, yo, this is a great 5K. It's
What a
not
breeze.
too bad. Sometimes it doesn't feel great. But
Do you have any goals coming up in terms of marathons? Or
so I've got Tokyo in March. That's the next one. The Tokyo Marathon is the 2nd of March, I think.
it's really cool also that you're traveling with this passion.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're not just... A running club, I think, would be great locally because those would also just be something consistent to be a part of. But it's something to tick off your bucket list as well.
Yeah, it is fun. It's fun to see different parts of the world. It's, I think, also the energy, like kind of on the starting mat when you're there, and sometimes, like in the bigger marathons, there's 30,000-40,000 people
Sure.
that are kind of packed into the starting pens, ready to go. There are people who are, you know, have tears of joy. There are people who have tears of sadness because they're running for someone who they've lost, who is going through, you know, kind of tough circumstances in their life. There are people who are nervous and bopping up around. There are people who are praying that they've done enough preparation. That's me. You know, there's so there's a broad cross section of people that just come together on that day to make it happen. The music's going in the background, depending on kind of what city you're in the world. It's generally something or some song that's meaningful to those people around. So it's a great, it's a huge experience, I think, and we in South Africa have many of those experiences too. I mean, if I think of the Two Oceans and the Comrades are probably a bit beyond my reach at the moment, but you know, I often watch the Comrades and have a number of good friends who are doing it, and that kind of energy and focus and camaraderie is really cool.
And insanity.
Yeah.
You forgot to mention. They're better than us.
Yeah. They're just better people.
That requires a lot of sacrifice in terms of the dedication that you have. Your work is very demanding as well. You're a family man as well. How do you keep that balance and keep yourself in check? Or is that something that anchors you?
Yeah, I mean, I think like this concept of work-life balance, I'd say I favor a concept more of kind of work-life integration. And I heard this from a CEO of our business many years ago, and it got me thinking, because I think work-life balance often creates this tension within you, okay?
That there's an end goal that you have to reach for it to be at equilibrium.
Correct. So you've got the scale, and you're picking off this, and it goes like that, and you've got to put on then, it goes like that. And I think that can create like tension and anxiety in life, and I don't know if it's like hugely productive. So for me, the concept of kind of work-life integration has been far more beneficial to my life and my career. And there are times where, you know, one is taking up and sapping more time than the other. But it's important to, over a period of time, you know, ensure that things are kept in check. So do I get balance right every hour, every day? No. But there are certain things in life for me that are non-negotiable. I mean, my family are a key. They are, you know, the most important thing in my life. And so getting home for dinner in the evening is important. Bathing the kids on the weekend is important. I'm not great at rugby or cricket or whatever it is, but when my son asks me to kind of throw a ball around, then we're out, you know, doing that. And integrating what we do, you know, as well. So if I'm training for a run, you know, they'll come cycling with me. And so we've built up how long they can cycle over a period of time. It always has to include like
and you also can't lag back. Then you can be like, oh man.
Well, this is exactly. They get my pace up. They get my pace up. So It always has to include like a stop at Starbucks or something to reward their efforts. But that's been really cool as well. A factor of my job is I have to travel, and so it's getting kind of that those yings and yangs, or keeping kind of those yings and yangs in check. When I travel, I every night at 6 o'clock South African time, kind of wherever I am, I'll step out of my meeting or whatever I'm in, send a voice note, or we'll do a quick video call, because that's when we're getting ready for the bedtime routine here. When they wake up in the morning and they're on their way to school, they'll send me a voice note. So it's about, we've made it about kind of adjusting to the way in which our world works, and it's been hugely positive.
You seem very in tune with understanding that you don't need to be perfect, but you'd like to experience a lot. You'd like to do the best at what you can do, what's available to you at that moment, and just being your authentic self within this journey. Is there anything specific that you're looking towards in the next couple of years, whether it's personal or professional?
Yeah, I mean, big question. Wow. I think
It's either this or climate change.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Choose one.
Choose your big question. Are you going to solve climate change for the next 5 years? Look, I mean, I think that the important part of life, which I've learned, is kind of being present in the now. Having an understanding and an appreciation for where you want to go and what you want to do. And, I do try to pen those out and to kind of have a perspective and an idea, a vision, a goal, direction to move in. But I think you also have to leave a little bit of room for serendipity, right? Some of the best things that have happened in life, my personal life, my family, my career, have been unplanned for. There have been things that I haven't necessarily thought of or catered for, but have just kind of come in, I say with my right hand, but left field. And so I think you've got to leave space for that. For me, I focus kind of on incremental gains and on the decisions that I'm making every day, and try to ensure that as much as possible, because we all get it wrong sometimes, that they're building, in that direction. So the short answer is, I can't give you a definitive for the next 5 years, but watch this space. Let's talk again in 5 years.
Everest.
Hey? No.
Stop just throwing ridiculous things out there.
Exactly. Everest possibly. I see they've just added Sydney to the World Marathon Majors now. So there used to be six World Majors, and they've just put in Sydney. And Cape Town might be the 8th.
What are the others?
Next little while.
I'm assuming New York won.
New York is one. Boston is one. London, Chicago, Berlin, Tokyo. They've just added Sydney, and I think Cape Town is on the list. So we should all keep our fingers crossed and do whatever we can to support that marathon to get it.
The most laid back people with the most hectic marathon.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a bit of a paradoxical for Cape Town, right?
Yeah. Do you think about Durban a lot? Like the fact that you grew up there, but you're a Joburger now.
Yeah.
Is there something that pulls you still towards the coast?
Yeah, I mean, the warm ocean is one.
It's a plus.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the lack of winter.
It's so funny because my school friends, who I still have a very tight knit group of school friends. So we're all on a WhatsApp group. We speak a couple of times a week. And
that's great.
Often when I get to Durban, they're like, "No, you guys have become proper Valis. You stay at the beach. You're wearing shorts in winter." So I feel like we've probably adjusted more than we'd like to or care to admit. But I do still enjoy Durban. I mean, I think it's a beautiful part of the country. There's an awesome vibe. The weather is generally good. Climate change is changing that. I mean, as you know,
they've been battered the past couple of years. Yeah,
they have been, and I think those storm systems that used to kind of historically operate in that corridor between Madagascar and South Africa have now moved a degree or two in, and that will affect rainfall and weather there. But that's a different part of the conversation. But yeah, in short, I do enjoy Durban. My family are mostly up here now. My mom moved up shortly after my first child was born, so that's really special to kind of have her close by and be able to get in. But my in-laws are still in Durban, so we managed to get down fairly frequently.
Awesome. And thank you for checking in on climate change.
Yeah.
I appreciate your perspective.
We had to weave it in somehow.
You're the expert. Zuriel, it's been great catching up with you. You've got lots on the go, but lots more to look forward to, even though you haven't specifically pinpointed things. I think there's such a great foundation that you've already built and only more to come. And obviously our relationship with you as a broker and a friend at I2 is going to continue from strength to strength. So we're excited to work together as well.
Likewise, look forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Keep well. Thanks a lot.